my last TNT. Before I go, it is not the last TNT. Because you know how people take stuff. They be like, this was the last TNT. No, this is my last TNT. It is not the last TNT. We usually break from TNT in July and August, but we will still have TNT through the end of the month. And then the last TNT of June, the last Tuesday of June, is going to be a discussion around the book, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, of Maya Angelou. So, but it's been a while since we had TNT. That revival be throwing you off, man. So glad to see everybody here tonight. All right, let's pray. This is good. That means I can leave early here. Y'all can stay. I'm going to leave. All right. All right, come on, let's pray. God, we are so thankful and grateful for tonight and for this opportunity to be in your presence, oh God. We ask that you will continue to lift us, strengthen us, empower us as we continue to honor you for who you are. Thank you, God, for another day to be alive. We ask, oh God, that you will open our eyes, our hearts, and our spirits, that we might be receptive to your revealed word on tonight. We love you, Lord. And it's in your name we pray. Amen. Amen. You know, I've been saying for a long time in that prayer, receptive to your revealed word. And I just thought about it as I was praying. And I say revealed word versus read word. Anybody can read the scripture, but often these gatherings in our fellowship through teaching, things get revealed that are not always just read. So thank y'all for being open to receiving what God wants to reveal on tonight. A few things, well, not a few things, one thing. On June 14th, not only is there a concert that evening, but during the day from 9 to 3 is the Blueprint for Wellness. Now, this is important because if anyone in here has done the Blueprint for Wellness, Ms. Betty, yeah, where you can get a whole breakdown of, when you give a blood sample, they send you a whole little magazine, almost like 36 pages just of a whole read of your health based on the blood work, things you need to be aware of, issues you may have. Some people discovered some things they didn't know based on all the things they did with the blood. So that's June 14th, 9 to 3. I used to not, I don't always do that kind of stuff. I think it's great. But in years past, before I found out what I had, I would do blood work, and they had me all over the place because a lot of folk didn't know what was going on. My condition is blood-based, so I can't donate blood or stuff like that. But yeah, but the Blueprint for Wellness is amazing. So consider it. Again, June 14th, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. If you have any particular questions about it tonight, you can ask Deacon King right here. She facilitates it, puts it together, and grateful for that. Now, someone sent me a message. What's up, Mary? How are you? You know, I figured I'd beat you to the punch. You know what I mean? Before we, no, because I know you're gonna miss me. So you know, I know you're gonna miss it. So. But before we get into this kind of, I'm really serious about ending early tonight, though. It was nice. It's a nice day today. That's why I was outside. We was outside enjoying the day. It's a good day today, you know, because I don't know what those seasons are anymore with climate change. You know, here we are in June, and we just catching a 77-degree day. I mean, it'd be this week. Yeah, it's gonna be hot, and then next week be in the 60s. I don't, climate change is real. You know, who in here is not from New York originally? Who just here? You moved here, transplant. Where you from?
Midwest.
What part? What state is that, by the way?
So I spent time in Ohio, Minnesota.
All right, I love it. Ohio, Minnesota, Illinois. I've been to all those places. And who else? No, but how long you been in New York?
Since I was a kid.
We can't count you no more. We can't. You're a New Yorker. You're a New Yorker. I can't count you no more. Huh? Look, now that's it right there. But I'm talking about folk who transplant. I grew up in New York, and I was telling my god brother, he came to church on Sunday, and we were talking to my son. I was like, growing up in New York, the seasons were clear. It was clear seasons, and it was, when winter was here, you had a few snowstorms every winter. And I think last winter they said the cumulative snowfall was like 6 inches total for the whole winter. And it was nothing to have a couple of blizzards in the winter, Now, people don't retire. What you retiring for? To go somewhere else? Because in about 5 years, it's going to be 2 seasons, mild and hot. So I don't even know what we there's a time moving, it made sense going down south. But not some places. You go down to Florida, they're going to be underwater in 12 years. Let them say it. And you go out to Arizona, it's going to be Death Valley for real. Last year in the Phoenix area, they had 111 days of 100 degrees or higher. 111 days throughout the year. That's crazy. Who coming outside? And you better pray your AC working. You ain't coming outside now. I don't care what you tell me. I was a few years ago. A friend of mine invited me to come play golf in Arizona, and it was June. So I get there. He dropped me off at the hotel, and where I was staying had 2 golf courses. So he said, "Man, I got us a tee time tomorrow at 5:45 a.m." I said, 5:45 a.m.? He was like, "Yeah, bro." He said, "If we don't go out then, we ain't gonna be able to take it. And we gotta be done." He said, "We gotta be done by like 9:30, 10. Man, around 9, and I didn't understand, because my first time going out there I've been out there in the winter time. At that time, it was my first time going out there in summer. And so I leave my room like 5 a.m. I'm walking down towards the other part of the hotel where the golf course was, but there was a Starbucks, right? The Starbucks in there had a thermostat in there, a big one, I guess they were telling them. So I'm walking to get some coffee, and the joker at 5 a.m. said 86 degrees. I was like, wait a minute, that can't be right. I never drank so much water on the golf course. They had every hole had like a cooler of water. I think I drank a bottle every hole, which also meant I was going to the bathroom every hole. But I was like, my God, I never felt no heat. Like it was ridiculous, man. So anyway, a person hit me on Instagram, and I don't see the person here now, but that's just like people. Ask you a question, Mary, and don't show up. No, I'm joking. The person said they may be a little late tonight. I ain't gonna call them out like that. But because the question was, have I discussed sinners yet? And I said, no. The movie Sinner. Not you, Mary. I'm talking about the movie, not you. I see how you get confused with it, though. Yeah, we weren't talking about you tonight, not tonight. And I was like, no, because my 3-week rule, but then we were in revival, right? which was great, by the way. We had a good revival. That May revival was really good. And so I'm gonna say a few things about Sinners. You all may have some. Who saw the movie, by the way? Let me see. Okay, bet. I don't really have to talk about it because we got online now. You go on TikTok and you hear all the conversation. I don't even know if I need to say anything. But anything about the movie that stuck out, or that you, as you can reflect on it, that anything raised any questions or anything like that? Because if you remember, I think a month ago, someone did ask in TNT. I was like, I don't want to talk about it yet because my 3-week period had not passed yet. Yeah, I waited. But you didn't see it, Mary? Okay. What's about beyond? Is it Trey? Is it on streaming service now? On streaming, it's available? Yeah. And if you take a plane flight somewhere with a TV, they're showing it now. So I saw the other day. Yeah, I was flying. What did I just come? Yeah, from Florida, and I saw that. But anyway, no question. So y'all good? Then we don't need to talk about it. You said it was garbage? Well, now we got to talk about it. You just now made me want to. If you said that movie was garbage, no, I'm not going to let them have it. What made it garbage to you? Let me hear this.
I'm being biased.
No, I was just.
I'm being biased. I don't like vampire movies. I don't like living dead stuff. I just don't like it at all.
Okay.
I don't like that stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I will say this though. To me, and I'm not a fan of vampire movies, but what I'm going to say is I felt like the vampire stuff was secondary in the movie to me. If it was the dominant for anybody, you missed a lot. It was so many layers to that movie that, for me personally, I got so caught up in the different messaging that was taking place that the vampire piece really, for me, became secondary to the plot and what they were doing. And the reason why I appreciated it, for several reasons. One, Hollywood now has become risk averse. Everything is remakes. No one wants to take a chance on new ideas or concepts, especially black movies. You can forget about it. And to see how much it grossed, how well it did, was, to me, good to see that. Especially, I think Ryan Coogler's Marvel movie, Wakanda, is the only Marvel movie nominated for an Oscar. The only one that he did. And that's important to hear because Marvel kind of changed the direction of what was making money in movies. And everybody was trying to keep up with Marvel because they was killing, still are, the Marvel universe. But in that universe, it was only that Wakanda movie that really got nominated for an Oscar. But yeah, I thought the subliminal messages were deep from the people who owned, the Asian couple who owned the store on two sides of the street. One store, black folk are going, one, white folks are going, the culture, huh? It was a lot of stuff like that. I thought highlighting a lot of, whether you call it voodoo or hoodoo, which has its roots in different African religious experiences, I thought was really good. Christians sometimes are too uptight. The amount of, if you're a Christian, you don't need to go look at this movie. You know what's funny to me? I think I said it, and clearly I don't have to discuss sinners too much tonight because y'all don't want to talk about it. But what's funny to me, and I think I said this the last time we met, but it's worth repeating, that Christians, we super don't see this, don't do that. You gotta be careful. We super spooky. We don't admit how superstitious we are, right? But then when you read the scriptures, right? And I'm like, so you talking about, I heard one person put, you can't be watching that stuff when they be sitting around there talking about killing chickens and spreading the blood. I said, wait a minute. Now here we go singing, talking about it reaches to the highest mountain. The blood that gives me strength from day to day. Or in the Old Testament, here we go. Take a fresh lamb, slay it, put the blood over the doorpost. But we got a problem with blood on this side of the story. But all these things we say, we don't think about it. Because if somebody was looking at like, why y'all talking about the blood so much? Jesus talking about, this is my body, eat of it, right? We don't think about these things, but we spooky, man. And then we uptight too. I used to grow up in church and go to church and you see everybody look miserable. Everybody look miserable. You be, y'all who went to them churches we growing up? Everybody praying something. talking about the joy of the Lord is my strength. Mad. It kills me, man. Like, we some uptight folk. Not here for sure. But you go to some places, it's like, you the walking dead in church. You stiff and everybody sitting around like uptight. You know, you make a joyful noise. It's hilarious. See, I'm serious, but I'm funny at the same time. But that's what happens in church, man. We uptight. We need to relax. Couldn't go to the movies, talking about the spirit gonna jump off the screen. What? If it ain't jump off you, it ain't gonna jump off the screen. Jump off, I ain't seen a spirit jump off a screen in my life. I see it jump off people every day. But the screen, you walk in the movie theater talking about something. Well, we a trip. And then no one is the funniest with Christians. When people be cursing, ooh. Now, I ain't met a Christian yet who don't curse. Maybe not in Maybe not in public. Huh? You met one? Yeah, you said you met a Christian. That's what I mean. Even when you say, yeah, you met a Christian who didn't curse. A Christian. I ain't met him, but God bless him. You know, I'm in recovery with regular relapses. No, in the Nick game, the Nick game, you would have thought I was in a monastery. I was quiet. You know, let me tell you how I know it was bad. Usually at the end of a Nick game, me and my son talk, we ain't even called even another. I was like, I put my hand on the covers and went to sleep. I was so mad. I was disgusted. I was like, I was out of town watching that joke. I was like, man. Did I hear it? I put the call in. Nah, man. No, he had to go. For who? That's the one, yeah. I mean, no, but Mark Jackson ain't never gonna coach in the league no time soon, tragically, because of the league. Once they blackball you, Mark Jackson is a great coach.
Because he taught religion in the locker room.
That wasn't it. That wasn't it. You think that's what it was? No, see, well, how are you gonna sit there and say yes if you heard it, which means you didn't hear it right? You said, you was like, that was part of it. Religion is not the problem. You know why? Most NBA teams are required to have a chaplain. It ain't religion that's the problem. It's when you are trying to convert people on your team. Yeah. 2, when you make numerous anti-gay remarks in the locker room when one of the owners is gay. My brother, you can't bust that move. So, you know, you could go and get penalized. And he took a big hit because Mark is very, 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 very opinionated. And so we just the era we in, they locked him out from broadcasting because he was a great broadcaster too. They wanted him for the Knicks. I think Mark Jackson would have been a great coach for the Knicks. Remember, it's Mark Jackson who built Golden State team. So people forget that it was him who got managed to draft Steph Curry and Draymond. He saw something. And so Steve Kerr kind of inherited the fruit of Mark's labors. But I think Mark is I think he'll be a great coach. I think, honestly, I love basketball. I played basketball seriously. And I think that most guards make great coaches. And because the guards, especially point guards, they are floor generals. They have to see the whole game. I haven't seen too many centers be great coaches, i.e. Pat Ewing. I don't know. You're going to find him now. I'm just saying, as a whole, who? But you know why Isaiah was a bad coach? The same reason Jordan would have been a horrible coach. The same reason Larry Bird wasn't a great, great coach. When you have guys of certain levels of performance dealing with a younger generation who doesn't necessarily have that same kind of commitment, these guys were intense players. Isaiah Thomas was one of the most intense basketball players that played the game. So I think, not that they weren't good coaches, but I think, I remember hearing Isaiah make a comment one time, you come into the gym, these dudes got their cell phones and they listen to music. Like, you compete, it's a different age. So it's hard sometimes for some of these old school players to understand how to engage and connect to this younger generation. Now it's only going to get harder. You got players coming out of college who are already millionaires from college. Cooper Flagg already said in 1 year college basketball made $28 million. I mean, when you 18, 19 years old and you coming into the NBA already a millionaire from the NIL deals in college, that's a different breed of athlete right now. Now, hear me, I'm in complete agreement. I think players should have been getting paid for a long time. I believe that. They were. Coaches got endorsement money. Excuse me. The school got money. And players got nothing. Now, not that they didn't get anything. They got a free trip to college. But I always thought, that ain't it. I definitely don't want them. I get nervous. Them big peppermints, you can't have no conversation. I can't even talk with them. I go, you can't do nothing with them mints. And then you got me really nervous. You put them in a Ziploc. I don't know what you hustling in that bag. I don't trust that. I just watched the documentary about the Tylenol murders. You can't get me. I don't trust that. I do not trust that. I tried to explain to my son the other day. I think it was maybe it wasn't you. It was somebody who was younger. Remember the Tylenol joint? Yeah, you too young for that. But it's a 3-part for the older folk. On Netflix, it's a 3-part docuseries about the Tylenol murders. And I remember being like 11, 12, 13, and them folk, and I forgot that in 2 days, 3 family members died from that joker. One 20-something-year-old, 31-year-old died, right? Said he had a heart attack. And then the family comes together at the house to grieve and mourn, and his brother and sister-in-law died because they all took Tylenol. And it was laced with cyanide. So you had 7 people in Chicago. You had 2 people in Westchester County. And they were trying to say it was somebody. The problem with Westchester County was that the people who died in Westchester County was after they changed the sealing. When Johnson & Johnson trying to say somebody contaminated it, but after they put all the triple seal, 2 more people died. So the docuseries is basically saying it wasn't no man who did it. They didn't definitively say it, but they said it was Johnson & Johnson production factory where cyanide got into some of the pills. But you couldn't have that because Johnson & Johnson already had taken a hit. They'd have taken a larger hit if it was found out that it was connected to their manufacturing process that cyanide got into it. But I remember when it happened, folk didn't want to get Tylenol, because them were the days, you know, you think about how different it was culturally. Wasn't all these seals on stuff? You could walk into the drugstore, open it up. I ain't saying I did it, but I'm just saying you could go in there, go to the back of the store with the bottle and be like, and put it back and be like, that's what I heard. I just remember you used to be able to do that. Be like, put this back. Wasn't no glue on the seal or nothing. You just open the box and be like, you know. I'm just saying, back in the days, you know, I'm telling you, and it's a different time. I remember going on an airplane and you had the smoking section in the back, and you had to go to the bathroom. You had to go through a great cloud of witnesses to get to the bathroom, and then them were the days you can go to the gate to meet somebody. No security. Was like you could walk to the gate, go to the gate with them, and they was leaving, give you hugs and kisses, and go back. Not now, Jack. All that changed after 9/11. So, yeah, it was a different time, man. Simpler time, but you just got people out there who kind of crazy. Anyway, that would get me talking about all kind of stuff. That's why I like TNT. Yeah, I like talking about everything. All right. Let me read this scripture for y'all and have some conversation. Then I'm going to leave. Y'all welcome to stay. I'm going to leave from Sunday. Proverbs 18:16. I enjoyed preaching that sermon Sunday, by the way. Yeah. A gift opens doors. It gives access to the great. Now, the interesting thing about this passage in Proverbs 18, or in most translations, your gifts will make room for you and bring you in the presence of greatness. The word there for gifts is a word in Hebrew, matan. I think that's right, matan, M-A-T-T-A-N. And what it originally meant, because there's multiple meanings of this, but the first primary meaning was the idea in Eastern culture is that if you wanted to get access to certain people of influence, you brought a gift. So the idea that your gifts make room and bring you before greatness, that was what it originally meant. The literal gifts you bring to offer is what gives you opportunity to access certain people. That's the original meaning, right? Which is deep. It's a completely different meaning than how we've heard it, but that's the original meaning of the passage. So it was about if Mary was someone I wanted to have access to or get to meet, it was me bringing her a gift as a token. Now, many cultures still practice that. We still do it in so many different ways. You know, new neighbor comes in, you bring them a bottle of wine or something. It's the same thing, that the gifts we offer were giving us access. That's the original kind of meaning of it. But then it has a secondary meaning which talks about abilities and talents and the sort, which is more of what has been customarily used to explain it, that your gifts, but it's the same concept. It's the idea of not gift that you hoard, but a gift that you give, right? And so Sunday, I kind of did a combination of the two meanings. The idea is, if you look at it referring to your personal gifts, your personal abilities, that what brings about greatness or access to opportunity is the ability to give it away, to offer it in service in many ways, which is the primary way, right? So we often think about it as your gifts make room for you. In other words, your personal gifts or abilities or talents creates opportunities, right? But it only creates opportunities if you use it and use it on behalf of those of others and you give it. Same thing. It's like when you discover your talents, your gifts. I think Mark Twain, I'm paraphrasing Mark Twain, you spend your life, once you discover what those things are, you spend the rest of your life giving it away. That builds you as a human being. It grants access. It is the doorway to greatness, which actually speaks in large measure to part of who we are, our core values of live, love, serve, that last one, service. It is using your gifts and your talents in service of others. The reason you've heard me numerous times say that there's nothing greater than to use your abilities to enhance the life of another human being. That is a rebellious thing to do. It's a rebellious act, especially in a cultural moment where ideas like selfishness and greed are at the forefront, right? The idea of giving. It's also difficult in this current age, social media, because the first thing you tell somebody when they identify you have some talent or gift, the first thing somebody's going to tell you, well, how are you going to monetize that? How are you going to make money from that? Right? And that becomes a drive for people. So everything now is, how do you monetize your platform? How do you monetize this? How do you make money from this? It's a very strange era to me. Not in a highly hypercritical way I'm doing it, but it's just very strange. It doesn't give birth to expanding our humanity in this moment. It actually, in the way the scripture talks about it, and the way I talked about it on Sunday, is really a big countercultural narrative, especially in this moment where we think that all the talents and gifts we have is primarily to make money, to build wealth. And that primarily makes sense because of, well, one word, which is capitalism, right? Because at its heart, capitalism is not fair. So you can't say things like, oh, we all have the opportunity to build wealth in this country. Not true. That's not true. You know, there are many people historically who made money off of the labor and ingenuity of other people who never got recognition nor the money from it in this country. That's just so it becomes that oftentimes those who, at one point in the history of our country, those who amassed great wealth were also great thieves, right? Because if I use you to build my wealth and you have no benefit, I'm stealing. I'm taking your gift for my own personal gain. I'm taking your labor for my own personal gain. I mean, that's how this country was built. And that's just the reality of it. But it's all steeped in this capitalistic mentality. Capitalism is fed, we already talked about it, by greed, by selfishness, and then it is manifested in some of its highest levels through materialism and consumerism, right? I had a conversation with somebody today, and they were telling me about a particular thing, had these different coats. And I wasn't judging, I was just making a point. He's like, oh, sometimes you have all these different coats. I said, well, how many of you exist? In other words, like if you got 100 pairs of shoes, I mean, you got 2 feet, right? And we're in a culture that says excess is good. You know, the more you have, it signifies something. And whatever it signifies, you make it that, right? Or our consumer choices, what we choose to buy. We often say things like, well, it's my choice. I'm free to buy that. Not really. Not really. Because your purchasing choices have been manipulated. We don't always freely choose what we want. Oftentimes, we've been told what we want. It's called the manufacturing of need. Our need in this culture is often manufactured. How is it manufactured? It's manufactured through commercials, through ads, and now social media big time. But something interesting is happening. I'll be honest with you. Something very interesting is happening, and I want to I've been watching this and paying attention to it. Things like Amazon and TikTok Shop are very interesting for this one reason. A lot of the products that you see pushed on like TikTok Shop that people consume in large are not name brands. A lot of times there's no name to it. So in a very interesting way, the taste of what you would call middle America or the average is shifting, because now we want, not especially in the age where the economy is not doing so great, or at least people not feeling like it's doing well. Now all of a sudden it's like, let me get this pack of 3 cargo pants for $25 in black, blue, and tan, or you get options of the 3 colors you want, right? So what happens is, it's a beautiful concept if you think about it. Well, in terms of how you make money. So let's take the cargo pants, because that's a big thing on TikTok, right? So it's not that you're going to get blue, black, or khaki. It's that you then get like 6 options of the 3 colorings you can put together. So now you feel like there's an expansion of choice. That's me. I didn't turn my volume on. You know, you feel it. It's brilliant, actually, if you think about it. I think it's brilliant, at least. But now you're getting excited, because now here's what happens. 3 packs of cargo pants for $25.99. Now you can't settle on the 3 colors you want. And what do you think happens? You say to yourself, well, wait a minute, 25, 6 pair of pants for $50. Yeah. Next thing you know, you done bought 6 pair of pants for the 51, 52, whatever dollars it is. And you're like, yeah, you know. I'm speaking from experience, by the way. I ain't gonna sit here and act like, because you know I'm past the name brand, so you give me a good deal at this point, because I don't need I don't need 1 pair of cargo pants for $150. I can tell you that right now, that ain't gonna happen. So I'm very particular about certain things, but the whole thing is, we don't realize how we're in a moment where culturally the ideas raised on Sunday for some people are strange. And I say part 2 of the sermon because if you saw, the sermon had 2 parts. First part was in response to an anticipated question. Because if I say your gifts will make room for you, your gifts will create opportunities, your gifts give birth to possibility, all these things. The first thing I've been asked over the years was, how do I know what my gift is? Because I saw it. I could feel it. How do I know what my gift or gifts are? And so that's why I spent the first part of the sermon talking about how you identify your gifts, right? Because, you know, you got all these different tests that go around to figure out what your skill set is and all that stuff. And if you're on social media, you got all these little tests that get you, right? You be like, oh, you think it's free? And at the end of it, they be like, if you want the results of this test, send me your money to get the results. You be in it, again, experience. You do the test, you at the end of the test, oh, they want this, right? And then, but what I try to do is give you a way to determine what your gifts are, right? And the thing about it, identifying the gifts, and I'm gonna go a little deeper on it tonight before we go, because I'm looking at the clock too. The thing about it is, we don't always seek to stand in the fullness of our gifts because we are busy trying to determine what significance is. And the other thing about this cultural moment that makes it difficult, because everybody, not everybody, I'm exaggerating, but you get what I'm about to say, wants to be a celebrity. So we trying to figure out how to chart this path. You know, this person become, well, celebrity, and the new word for celebrity, and celebrity is still a word. Another word for celebrity in this age is what? Influencer. Content creator. Right? Influencer. And so we want to be viewed a particular way. We want to do that. And God help, everybody want to be a guru now. Everybody want to, they done use ChatGPT to look up how to do it, and then they go, you know, I see some folk who up there, they spiritual gurus in 3 days. And now they want to give advice. You know, they got a video with the incense on the side and the music going, and it smacks of fraudulence, right? Like, you know, because everything can't be looked up. Some things only come by way of experience. And the things that can be looked up may lack a depth that comes from experience. And that's where social media has limitations, you know. Now, let me pause a second. You know, Google came out with this Google video. Heard about this, Rick? This Google video thing that is going to make movies and obsolete. You're going to see this thing. This is deep, where you can speak a command like we would give it for like Siri, and the Google will generate the whole video with voice and everything on commands. That's going to change movies in the future and everything. And with AI, it's going to get to the point where you're going to go to movies, you don't know if there's real people you're looking at or not. That's what's going to happen. Something is lacking, right? Because it deepens and furthers the idea in this moment that what is valuable is this image, an idea of perfection, right? Because if everything you see is perfectly done, there are nuances of human beings where oftentimes the true beauty and genius of our presence comes out that these AI generations can never capture. It's like Alan Watts said, when you play, anybody here play instruments? Yeah, you play instruments. And what do you play? Yeah. Oh, man, you all right. Like professionally, or you just what you play? Okay. Yeah, he talked up, and many musicians talk about it. It's not the notes you play that really shape your sound. It's the sound between the notes, right? It's the sound. Because if all three of us play the saxophone, we play the same notes, they will not sound the same, right? But if I get an AI-generated version of us playing the same song, it's going to all sound the same. It's like now, Brother Dorian, I could be listening to jazz on the radio or anywhere without using Shazam to know who it is. And I could listen, and I know when that saxophone is John Coltrane. That sound is singularly unique. It's like your signature. It's a sound you make. And that sound is connected to your relationship with the instrument. And it's the uniqueness of your sound. That's what adds value, right? But when we all start sounding the same, nuance is gone, right? The way we do it changes. Sometimes in improvisational jazz, some of the greatest music comes from accidents, right? That's what Miles said. That's why he said you make a mistake, you keep playing, because something is going to be made in what you think is a mistake. But if everything sounds perfect and the same, Nuance is gone. If we all sat in here right now and had the same voice and the same sound, we won't want to talk to nobody. For what? I want to hear myself. You know? But all of us, we could say the same word and all say it differently. That's the nuances of humanity that these computer-generated things don't necessarily capture. You can't capture the subtlety. You can even create a sound. You can create an AI generate a sound of someone with the, accent like they're from New Orleans. But if you get some folk from New Orleans, 4 people to speak, sound completely different all 4, right? So I don't know why we got here. I do know how we got here. But my point is that we're moving into a cultural moment where genius is no longer valued. And the beauty of what we call genius is sometimes in the discoveries that you make along the way to get to a certain place, I'm gonna go back to music, go back to Coltrane. There's this documentary called Chasing Train about John Coltrane, and Wynton Marsalis talks about the development between John Coltrane in the Navy and the John Coltrane you see emerging, and it's like, it's like a year or 2 difference. And he said it's hard to believe it's the same person playing. But that was about his commitment to the craft, his commitment to growing, his commitment to being better, his commitment to practicing, his commitment to finding his sound, right? But in this moment, we think 2 things. We romanticize the past, we live in the past, or we try to replicate what is immediate because we think by mimicking we'll get certain results of other people versus committing to what the uniqueness of our gifts, our sound is. Right? We all bear this uniqueness connected to our gifts. And we're in a moment where we think the gifts that are valuable are the ones that lead to popularity or lead to money. But what about the gifts and abilities that lead to the enhancement of humanity? That make people better. That make culture better. Because we're fastly going down a path that is going to negate the significance of your input, right? I'm looking at Betty Davis right now. And as I look at Betty Davis, she has these glasses on and a hat. Well, we all got hats and some of us got glasses, but they don't look like Betty. There's something about the way that hat fit on her head, connected to the glasses, that adds to the uniqueness of Betty's style and her, whatever it is she can, and it fits well. But we all don't look like that, and there's a reason. There's a reason why all gifts are not the same. There's a reason why we don't all look the same. Life will get incredibly boring. Incredibly boring. That's why there's seasons that are different. That's why people look different. Remember the saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder? Yeah, but if everybody looks the same, you don't need the beholder. Because what's beauty for me may not be beauty for you. But that is, again, part of the nuances. Everybody's not everybody's cup of tea. And thank God for it. Thank God for it. Yes. Hold on, darling. Pass it down. There we go. Yeah.
Hi, good evening. You were talking before about how people with a certain level of expertise have to deal with people who are ignorant about a subject.
Mm-hmm.
Questioning about how do you combat that? Because sometimes when you have a certain level of expertise and you engage with someone that's ignorant about that, it almost gives them validity because you're engaging. And I bring that up because, for example, Dr. Mark Lamont Hill had an argument with some people about certain topics, and they were like, well, you should just go Google it. And he's like, he doesn't have to Google it because this is what he studied, this is what his expertise is in, this is what his research was in. Mm-hmm. But by having those conversations, it gave almost that level of ignorance a voice in a way, mm-hmm. and people looking at that side. I also saw something today that disturbed me to my core, because people were saying, there's a trend now going around saying that Harriet Tubman was not a real person. And it's bad. But there are people who have these think pieces saying, oh, well, her name wasn't Harriet Tubman, and she didn't really go underground with people. And it's like, but that's getting voice. People think the Underground Railroad is under the ground. And they think that because she changed her name to not be caught by slave catchers, it means that she's not a real person. But there are people that are now like debating this. But by debating it, are you giving it?
Well, hold on. No, I'm sorry. I don't want to cut you off. Continue. Okay. So, this is something I often tell people, right? Like, they have, I'm just going to use one personal example. There have been many people, some of y'all, debated people online about something I said. And I sure don't engage it. Because, as you said, on some levels, no, that's a bad example. It was kind of a good example. I'm going to give a better example. Many years ago, many years ago, 2 decades ago, that's crazy to say, Laverne, when I started here at 33, now I got to put that number in there because at 33, I think I was wiser than most 33-year-olds. But there was parts of me that at that time had not fully matured yet. Namely, and it was in my approach for a reason. I would come here and be teaching on a Tuesday night, and inevitably back in those days, as the church was growing and the word about TNT was spreading, there were several people who would come every week, it seemed, who felt that their responsibility was to challenge me. All right? Hold on, I got to tie my shoe. And they would challenge me. And they would come in here, and I used to enjoy it. It was like, it's what made Tuesday nights exciting to me. Because and Google wasn't heavy then, right, like it is now. But what I used to say sometimes, every now and again from here, and I remember Laverne would be like, whoo, you're so ignorant sometimes when you say stuff. She said it in jest, though, like, because I had no problem embarrassing you. Zero. My attitude was, and we talking about before we were streaming and all this stuff, TNT would be, this whole down here would be packed. And my attitude was, I'm the pastor and I'm the teacher, and this is the flock that God led me. And if you're not invested in the flock, but you just invested in trying to challenge me, then my investment is to embarrass you in front of the flock. That was my objective. Absolutely. Absolutely it was. I took great pride in that. In making you look foolish. If you came foolishly. See, if you entered here not to learn, but to try to expose, I'm going to jack you hard. Because my thing was, you're going to get on your little Wikipedia, or Google now, and think you're going to come in here with your little cliff notes. Yeah, little cliff notes. And come to challenge me on something that you looked up and never studied. And I would say from time to time, what you do as a hobby is my calling. So I'm going to make sure that before everybody leave, they're going to know the difference between an amateur and a professional. Period. Because I had no problem. Because I took my investment in training and preparation, no different than a doctor, no different than a lawyer, no different than anybody else who you would never challenge. You ain't gonna go up in no doctor's office with your little cliff notes talking about this is what I think my diagnosis is. This is what I think. Doctor, well, I don't know, I think, no. So when you come doing that in here, I'm gonna make it clear that you ain't a professional. Your hobby is my calling. What you do on your side time is what I do with all my time. So I'm not gonna let you come up here and try to upstage. You ain't gonna upstage it. And then I will often say, Miller, I say, listen, you come into this gunfight with me. Don't come in here with no plastic butter knife. Because I said, my guns stay loaded. They stay loaded. So if you come in here with a little knife that you got from your little plastic utensil set of education, and you think you're going to come in here and try to come for me, I'm going to break you in pieces. I'm going to send you back home wondering what just happened. I'm going to embarrass you. Because I knew what people were trying to do. No, you ain't going to do that. Right? Same thing now. Right? My line brothers on this, they were on this online debate between some people talking about the Hebrew Israelites and da. And I said, they were like, what do you think? I said, I don't think nothing. I ain't got time to be sitting there having no conversation with my thumbs with somebody who up there Googling stuff and think they could come back with what they got off their search. There will always be platforms among human beings for ignorance. Ignorance has big platforms. Ignorance always will have platforms. Ignorance could be in the White House. But I gotta be careful. I'm from Barbados. I don't want ICE coming. Because they don't care now. They're just gonna take you. You know, they don't plan. They ain't gonna come get my family. My point is that we are in an age where people, even what we call intellectual pursuits, is done via shortcut. So how you would be someone who studied and actually talking about, well, Harriet Tubman wasn't a real person, or the Underground Railroad was underground. I thought so when I was 5. Not 45 and 55. You sit around talking about underground. It was really underground. It wasn't really underground. What? What are we? And whole social media conversations. What are you doing? I wish I would waste my time in a debate with someone about Harriet Tubman or the Underground Railroad. God bless you and your ignorant self. Go ahead. If y'all got time to do all that, and if you got time to respond to them, go ahead. I ain't got time for that. Because ignorance is not always bliss. Ignorance can also be dangerous. It can be very dangerous. You got people getting these online arguments about foolishness. And then now with AI-generated videos, you don't even know what's real. You know what I'm saying? You leave it to TikTok, you think the angels flying around the sky, and people in Brazil seeing angels flying around the sky. It's like all this craziness. You know why it exists? You know why it exists? I'm gonna tell you why. One of my favorite restaurants, I'm not gonna tell you because I don't want to see you there. I'm just keeping 100. I love my anonymity. Y'all ain't gonna come bother me somewhere. I'm not gonna tell you one of my favorite restaurants. I'm not gonna tell you. I'm not gonna tell you. But one of my favorite restaurants, Brother Dorian, I love this restaurant. Some people know what it is, but I already swore them to a blood oath of silence. All right? One of my favorite restaurants, I'm still on your question. It was already my favorite restaurant to the point where people around here call it my second office. I do meetings there, I go there, I walk in, they know everything I like. I walk in, nod to the bartender, drink is on the table. Like, it's that kind of thing, right? Like, you know, I walk in one time, Laverne walked with me. They were like, oh, wherever you want to sit. Another time, we got your table already ready. I called it, they know my voice. I called it one thing after we had revival. The kitchen was about to close, and I said, well, I'm on my way. We'll keep it open for you. That's the kind, but see, that's what happens in this, because I'm from a different generation. I believe if you patronize a place, you build a relationship with the people, and it changes your experience when the people who own the place know I ain't hopping to 20 different places every week. It's a different engagement. When you walk in a place, they know you and they know what you like and they have different conversations. You only get that when you consistently go to certain places that have multiple options on the menu. Somebody like, how you go there all the time? Because I don't eat the same thing every time I go. They have options. Anyway, it was already my favorite restaurant. But then, one day, I walk in, I'm sitting down having lunch, and I look out the window, and I see a bookstore across the street. I said, my God, now I can go to the bookstore and come eat or go eat, and bookstores are some of my favorite places, right? Come back to now you. People don't read. Because this bookstore has a name. I'm not going to tell you the name of the bookstore because then you might know where my restaurant is. Yeah, I ain't crazy. I know y'all was waiting. What's the name of the bookstore? Nope. It's called, you want the name for real? Bookstore. And the funny thing is, it was actually one of my favorite bookstore chains. And it ain't Barnes & Noble, so don't think it's all that, so let that go. But it was more because it's just a bookstore. The reason why Barnes & Nobles exists is still doing it because Barnes & Nobles offers you an experience. That's where they survive in. Old school bookstores don't exist like that no more. But there's a particular branch chain of bookstores. They losing chains. And it was one of my favorite. And they opened across the street. So my favorite restaurant and across the street is my favorite bookstore chain. And I'm just in heaven. That bookstore didn't last a year. Not a year. Because we don't read. Nobody reads. And I'm not saying there's just some of my friends of mine who are professors, even when I taught in seminary. We don't read. There's a certain fulfillment that comes from reading and certain knowledge gained from reading. You don't learn from sound bites all day or quotes from a book all day or these armchair intellectuals who base their intellectual prowess just based on their capacity to search something faster than my fingers can move and act like they're experts online. There's some debates I've seen that are steeped in not just ignorance, but insanity. Because we don't read, right? We don't read. We don't read, and we don't buy books, and we don't buy newspapers, which I get because of trees and all. I get that. But we don't, because I only buy one newspaper still, and that's on the Sunday New York Times. I buy that. But we don't read. And because we don't read, we can see people saying ignorant stuff. And because we are not a culture now that is committed to knowledge expansion, no, we're committed to information, whether it's bad or good. But the expansion of our knowledge and to develop our intellectual abilities and to be critical thinkers, oh, that's going downhill fast, you know. So you have these debates online. So you have a Mark Lamont Hill, right, who did his work, did his training to get his degree. and sometimes arguing with people, right, who ain't read 6 books their whole life. And the reason why he has to engage them is because he's built a social media space, right? And part of how he makes his own living is because, so he gotta do it on some levels. But I ain't gotta do that. I ain't doing that, right? So it's just, I don't like this moment. This is the most ignorant moment in our history, with the most access to information, and it's still the most ignorant moment, right? Last week, I was in Florida, right? And I'll tell you, not where, because then y'all gonna try to figure out stuff. Nah, man, you know you be nosy, so I know you. First, where you was at? Where'd you stay? None of your business. But I went down. Anybody ever been down to the Florida Keys? Yeah, Florida Keys. So I took last week for my birthday. I just shut down for the most part. I didn't do a lot of this. I didn't do a lot of talking. I did some, but I was like, it was my birthday week. I had family members like, where you at? None of your business. You know, what you doing for your birthday? Something. I ain't playing, I'm telling you. Everybody, you gotta just stop. You know what you can't do? You can't warn people when you about to disconnect, because then they're gonna harass you even more. I was just gone. And so I went down, I went to the Florida Keys in 2019. And the Florida, if you've never been, who said they've been down to the Keys? If you fly to Miami, if you want to drive, and you drive across Overseas Highway 1, beautiful. It is beautiful if you've never done it, because look at this. Some of the things we built back in the days, we couldn't build now on some levels. But they built basically a highway across the Atlantic Ocean. And when you, and it is to go from, so the southernmost part of the United States, if you don't know, is Key West, Florida. It's the southernmost part of the United States. If you decide to drive from Miami to, because Key West you can fly into, but if you drive from Miami to Key West, that's 4 hours and 10 minutes. And the majority of it is over water, right? It's beautiful. And you see, because all the keys are different islands that are connected through this roadway. You leave one key, you know, and so I was at a particular key, like I did that. And I was 2 hours away from Key West. I went to Key West for one particular reason, because one of my favorite writers, one of them, is Ernest Hemingway. And one of Hemingway's homes is in Key West. Now, I went to the other home he had, which was in Cuba, and I went there. Because to me, writers are like my rock stars, my heroes. I've visited some of the graves of writers, and I like going to their homes where they wrote. I think something like 11 or 12 of Hemingway's books he wrote in Key West at that property. And so I don't know why I brought this up, but it's coming in a minute. And I was there, and oh yeah, I know I was saying that. And you get there, right? And you think about all the books this man wrote. One particular writer, For Whom the Bell Tolled, A Movable Feast. You know, you go on and on and on. And you realize that people like him and so many others, because in this house, the typewriters he used are in there. Now, let me just tell you, as a contemporary person, looking at these old ribbon, non-electric typewriters that's like this big, these had little cases and carry them back in the days when they would travel, these writers. And the fact that they wrote these books with pencil and paper and these little cheesy typewriters and pumped out stuff that we could not replicate. And for me, it was going there because it's one thing to see someone genius, but it's another thing to be in the space where genius was created. I like to feel that space. And I was just walking through this house, and it's funny because he had many cats when he was there, and the property still has cats everywhere. Unique cats, 6-toed cats. And he wrote every day from 6 a.m. to 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. 6 hours, that's it. And one of his children said that from 6 in the morning to 12 he was the worst father ever. But from 12 p.m. on, he was the greatest father ever. That was his habit. And he built at this house. He had a main house and had this other house in the back with this pool. He built he had the first pool like in Key West. It was the talk of the town when he built this massive pool. And he built in his writing room was in this other space, house, like small little thing in the back. But what he did was, had this, on the second floor, had like a wraparound porch, almost like on the second floor. You could walk out of his master bedroom onto the porch. But from the porch, he built a catwalk to the writing room. So he would get up and walk across this catwalk to the writing room. In Cuba, he built a writing tower. That you had to go up all these spiral stairs to get to this singular room built on top of this. And in every window, there ain't no AC, so he had all these windows open. Every window in that writing room, you saw the ocean in Cuba, right? But I'm like, man, the first thing that hit my mind was, dude was right in here when it was hot. It wasn't no AC. I'd have been sitting on a block of ice or something, like. But then I had to think about it. I grew up in a house with no AC. We just had that fan. You put that fan in the window, right? How many of y'all ever used to put the cold rack on the fan and it's blowing through that? Okay, I just want to make sure. That's the closest thing to AC I had. You throw water in the fan. Like, my grandmother get mad. I get water, just throw it in the fan. Blow the water back at you, cold. But I was like, how much they produced with such little resources. A legal pad and a pack of pencils. And here we are. We can speak to a computer, it can write it. But we can't even write books like this no more because our attention span is so jacked up. You can't do it. You can't even do that. In school, when I taught, last time I taught, I had students complain because I had 7 books for the semester. That's a lot. Let me tell you something. My first semester of grad school at Duke, I had 33 textbooks. So when you tell me 7 is a lot, I'm laughing at you. It ain't my fault you got a bad attention span. 33 textbooks, my first semester at Duke. Man. So to me, that trip wasn't about the weather. I wanted to be where genius was created. I wanted to feel it. I wanted to see it. I wanted to experience it. Right? And so we are in a moment where those gifts are not honored anymore. Those gifts are not honored anymore. I ain't going through all that. Right? But these people, Baldwin, whoever you call, they gave their gift away. They wrote it. And we were the beneficiaries of their gift. Right? And it expanded who we were. Like the conversation myself and Dr. Maurice had about the fire next time. That conversation, you don't get that from a cliff note. You don't get that by looking it up on Google. That's 2 human beings with their own degree of engaging and then having a conversation, which is so rare in these days. But what we did goes back to when we were both at Duke doing it, when he was professor and I was there teaching, and we was doing that in front of students. Because that night, when we did it, I had a couple notes, he had a couple notes, but something happens in the engagement that who benefits? Those who are listening. So conversation gives birth to a different kind of engagement. You imagine me and him sitting around here debating whether or not Harriet Tubman existed. That's a conversation for the ignorant, right? Or trying to explain to somebody that the Underground Railroad wasn't really underground. Read a book. Like that's you know how much, let me tell you. I told y'all that we're gonna do, when I come back, I promise you, when I come back, the first book we read in is by Mark Hansen. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F. I'm gonna tie my other shoe. That's the first book we're reading. I'm gonna put it on the screen big and everything too. Because you know, people think, one of the greatest books I ever read. I told you about the premise of this book. You heard the premise of the book? I'm gonna give it to you. It's me and you now, all right? You my man, so I'm gonna give this back. All right, you don't mind telling me how old you are? How old are you? Oh man, come on, man. There we go. We in the same range. We in the same neighborhood. All right? So I'm going to use me as an example. I ain't going to put you on Front Street. So I just turned 54. Thank you. Come on now. Huh? I had to think about it? No. And next year, I'm just letting you know in advance, we have a party next year for my 55th. I'm going to tell you why. Well, it's 55. Every birthday is major. But next year will be 55 years old / 30 years as a pastor. So 55, 30. I'm celebrating. I don't care who comes, man. We celebrating. All right? All right. We're going to get it in. Yeah, you got the outfit already? That's what I'm talking about. That's called being prepared. All right? So what Mark said in the book is that, let's take me at 54. He said that you are born with a certain amount of F's to give. And you can't give an F about everything. Because you ain't got but so many. And part of our problem is we give an F about too many things. Y'all get me? We give our energy to things that are so irrelevant and non-consequential that do not enhance. And I'm at a point in my life where I don't have energy to give to things that don't enhance me. And you got to make certain decisions. Like I can't invest in certain conversations, certain things that do not enhance me or make me better because I ain't got that many F's to give. And you ain't gonna make me give an F about everything. So for example, your lack of preparation is not my emergency. Right? You're not gonna come to me, Pastor. No. Your issue ain't my crisis. I ain't got an F to give about everything. That's just being real. Think about how much energy we expend on things that actually diminish us. See? You see that? You see that response? That's it. The amount of brain energy, mental energy we give to things that do not make us better. And what happens is, usually, it's when you get older, you realize this. You know why, Mary? Because you realize, I ain't got but a few F's live. I ain't got but a few left. I can't be. And you may not call it that, but the point is, we don't have but so many. And so what happens in our cultural moment because of social media and 24-hour access of information, TV going all the time, news cycle rehearsing themselves all the time, streaming services playing movies all the time, all these things are taking up all our energy that I ain't got that much energy to give to everything, especially if it ain't making me better. I was in Florida last week. And I did something, let me tell you, it was hot. Now, let me tell you something. I'm an island boy. I don't like heat though like that. We don't get heat. People, I remember when I got married in August in Texas. And my family came, some of my family from Barbados came, and some people said, are y'all used to this heat? No, we not. You don't get no 100 degrees in Barbados. If it's 100 degrees in Barbados, they're gonna think something wrong. It's 85, 84 year round with a nice cool breeze at night that sweeps through that joint, right? And I was like, it was hot. So I was there and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do something I really never done. Because I want to be outside, but I don't like, being in the heat all day. That ain't even comfortable. Because it was hot and humid. So I was talking to the woman who worked there at the concierge. I was, sometimes you got to use the gifts to get certain things. I mean, look, man, one thing I could do is this right here. And I was able to get a cabana for with 50% off for the regular price. Watch this now. I was sitting, because it had 3 pools. And I'm at the point now, when I go to a resort somewhere with multiple pools, you know what I do on the first day? I'm just tell you the truth. I go find a pool where the older folk at. Let me find that pool, because you know what I know is going to be there? No noise. Ain't going to be no DJ playing, and ain't going to be nobody with no radio going. I want to scope out where my people at. Let me go. I can say my people now. I'm going to cross over. Where my people at? Let me find them. Because usually that pool also won't be crowded. And I found that pool, and here's the thing, it was actually the only pool that had some cabanas. And when I went out there, it was only like 7 people at this pool. Because the reason why I got the cabana, and I don't always do that, but I was like, I'm going to enjoy myself, because I don't like having to navigate 3 umbrellas to cover me from the heat. Sometimes you do it, but not all the time. And so I got this cabana, and the cabana had the chair, the chair, lounge chair, but then it had a chase in it. So now with pillows. Now, of course, I took towels to cover the pillows. I ain't put my head on everything. But I'm sitting there, and it had look, I could close the curtain if I need to cut down on the sun. And here was a killer, had a TV in there. What? So hold on, I get in there, and I was like, yo. And she said to me, I'm gonna give you the biggest cabana. Because cabana had the TV, the chase, the chair, I'm chilling, had plenty of water. I'll get that when you get home. Right. And I was laying in the chase with the pillows, and it was comfortable. And I turned on the TV. Let me tell you when I know God was with me, right? I turned on the TV. What movie just started, Robin? The Matrix. I said, God, thank you. I settled in, and I was all like, look, I was like, oh, Lord. Then the lady who hooked me up had me send fruit to my little thing. I got the fruit tray with the grapes. I got the drinks. Oh gosh. And in that moment, I was like, who got it better than me? Because you realize sometimes the older you get, those are the moments I got a lot of energy for, that feed to my well-being, that help me decompress, that I genuinely sat there, didn't even realize I had like a just grin on my face the whole time. Cheesing. Right? Because how did I get that? Y'all ready? Because your gifts will make room for you. Right? Yeah. You see how I came back to that? Y'all missed that. That was smooth, right? That was all right. But that's part of it. It's you get to a point in your life where you got to start valuing the things that make your life better instead of giving your energy to things that take away from you. Arguing with people. Arguing, and especially arguing with unidentifiable people online. You know, if you got a name in some avatar, I ain't talking to you. I don't even know who you are. Because you got all these thumb thugs, I tell them, who hide behind these images. I ain't got time for that. I'm trying to minimize the headaches, not increase them. You got too much time on your hands. And if you got that much time, invest it in your own well-being, right? Because sometimes when I realize in this cultural moment, we do too much intake and not enough reflection. We getting information, reading this, pulling this online, but we're not doing enough reflection so that we can enjoy ourselves and think about our lives and what makes me better. The reflection, you know, it's like when you have something that goes on in your life and you actually think about it after the fact and you say, did I really need to do that? Did I need to be a part of that? Because here's what happens, Mary. When you take the gifts that God has given you and you begin to use them in a way that enhances the life of other human beings, all of that comes back to you. You don't have to go chasing certain things. It happens. It happens. It shows up because you use your gifts, and your gifts really made room for you because you use your gifts to make room for somebody else. Right? Question. And then we gonna get.
Caught me off guard with the finger pointing.
Yeah, well, you had your hand up.
Right,
I
so no, I was just going back to the movies because I had a thought. We started off with Sinners, and you know, we were talking about no one really living like that authentic life, right?
Yeah.
And the other day I was watching, I forgot which Marvel movie was coming out, but they mentioned how much it costs to make it. And I'm like, but why are people still spending so much money on making movies? So I ChatGPT'd it, and it gave me all the answers until it got to the real one at the very end, which is it helps to shape the cultural norm.
Yeah.
It teaches us all how to be, how to dress, what cars to buy, what your apartment should look like. It teaches everything, and it goes back to like the social media. We're all watching these things, and none of these movies are like bringing us back to when you used to see the writers, used to see people being creative. Everything now is just about looking cute, looking hot.
Yeah, it's
Bust down, that's it.
yeah, it's the copycat syndrome right now. You put in front of us, we are told what beauty is, we are told what is valuable, we are told what's important, and we gravitate towards it. Well, this must be it, because we look at somebody, they got 3 million followers, or they must know what they're doing, so we're gonna listen. No, we are being told every day what should be important, and it takes courage to determine for yourself what is really valuable. It takes a lot of courage to cut against the grain now. It takes a lot of courage to not fall in line with everybody else's expectations. It takes great courage to be authentic. See, one day, this is why I wrote the book I wrote. And one day, folk gonna go back and look at this book and see what I was really trying to say. But the idea of embracing, I think about the opening line, I think it's something like, I wish everybody could just be themselves. But in an age of conformity, right? Just being yourself is hard, right? There was a time where you could be different and be a little quirky, and it was just, oh, that's who he is, that's who she is. Now, you're made to feel like you're less than a human if you don't look like what is the various norms. Right? You got to be this way and look this way. You got to now find women online saying, well, this is a natural body, or this is unfiltered. Think about it. You actually got to say now, this is unfiltered. Now, that's a whole thought, because what it says, or when you have online or through technology, different filters to make you look a certain way, and now you actually got to announce, this is unfiltered to me. Well, the truth is, we've been living a filtered existence for a long time. We've been told for a long time what ought to be and what should be. And for a long time, we let Hollywood determine it. Other things we thought had value determine what was important or what was beauty. So it was no longer in the eye of the beholder, it was in the eye of mass media. what became beauty. We stopped having individual tastes and started developing the collective taste, right? So now you go somewhere, think about it. There are tons of restaurants in New York City that are packed out every day and the food nasty. Food nasty, because it's the place to be seen. I ain't going to the restaurant to be seen. I want to go eat. And then they got you thinking you justify and walking out there for a meal with two for $600. To be seen? You're going to spend $600 and on your way home, stop at McDonald's. Here and then here. Yeah, you. Hold on. Y'all know y'all won't get out early. This is my last TNT for a while, so y'all know you're going to be here for a minute. So.
I just wanted to in terms of talking about like television and theater and such now, that yes, there are definitely things that are not awesome, but there is a lot of amazing things right now that didn't exist before. I mean, back when Sinners was made,
oh yeah,
that would have not happened before.
Yeah.
And Marvel is Marvel because of Blade. Blade saved Marvel.
Wesley Snipes saved Marvel.
So let's be clear about that.
Yes.
But I also, I understand that there's definitely we have to critique what is happening, but there is so many things that particularly for us that would not have existed before, and things like Lovecraft Country, Shonda Rhimes. Shonda Rhimes is the most powerful showrunner in Hollywood.
Yes.
And that did not exist before. She had to do 3 projects before she could get a black woman in a scandal. They gave her mid-season replacement, and she just kicked butt. So I'm just saying that I understand that things are not great, but there are things that are moving forward. That's all I'm saying.
No, tell me your name. Mia. Let me tell you, I agree with you. Mia, oh, I like that. 1,000%. But here's why I make my critiques. You and I and many people here are of a certain generation, right? There's a book, if you don't have it, I encourage you all to get it, called The Anxious Generation. Because I'm not thinking necessarily, because we're of a certain generation, right, where one of the breakthrough moments was like the Cosby Show, right? Which, as you look back, wasn't really good for us. Let me tell you why. Because, well, not that it wasn't good. I'm trying to get the right word. Because it almost showed that black excellence is steeped in what's not real. What do you mean? Show me, and especially for black women, show me a successful black female lawyer who got time to come home and raise 5 kids, cook, clean, all these things that weren't really realistic to our, even professionals. It gave these glimpses of what we thought black life was, and then it had everybody going looking for a Claire Huxtable wife that wasn't real, right? Or Cliff Huxtable, right? It was good because of what it did socially, right? What it did in media, what it did. But then there was some reality. You said, wait a minute, that ain't all of the life that our black folk live, right? And I love the commentary and all those things, but my critique is based on, we have a certain age. I can sit back now, you can sit back now and talk about what it means for a Shonda Rhimes to emerge and dominate, or a slew of other folk who got access, or a Ryan Coogler who can now make Sinners and that. But the problem is, that's you and I with the mature gaze. What I'm critiquing is what's destroying kids. You see the young lady over there who was just talking? She used to be a principal. And she could tell you, I remember the day, if you remember, when you stopped by here after school one time, I was in the lobby. You walked in, and you remember what happened that day? You remember that day? It was a day y'all locked up the phones. And you came here distraught almost. They took the cell phones from kids to put them in these pouches and lock them up, and the kids lost their minds. She said, she was like, Pastor, it was like it was crack. They were trying to break into it. That's what I'm talking about, because you may have 20 years from now a person who could never appreciate what you're talking about because their whole life has given birth to social deprivation, emotional deprivation. It is doing that to our kids. So you have generations now that have completely digital engagement and who have a hard time having conversations with people, who have a hard time engaging socially. And now we're studying the ramifications of social media on young people. That's where I'm at, because I'm thinking not just now. I can sit here, you and I can sit here and say, it's because of the way we grew up and the way we experienced life, and to say, I could look at a Chat GPT or Google search and be like, this is amazing. Because I'm not using it to be like, what's the best restaurant near me? Because you and I remember, to get information, you had to go to the library, or if your family was blessed to have some old tattered encyclopedias, because if you had a set of encyclopedias, you was king in elementary school, Jack. Your book reports were a whole different level. You was like, and now the things we had to labor to learn the Dewey Decimal System, to know how to look up books online, we don't even need that. So for me, information is mind-blowing. The things we can do now that took us hours, I can do in seconds. But take that to a generation that didn't have to experience life like that, where almost allergic to struggling for information, allergic to the strain of gaining knowledge. That's my criticism of it. So I look at what social media is doing socially, not to negate the benefits of it, but some of the consequences will be so dire. There's a reason why the inventors of it don't let their kids use it. There's a reason. And to me, again, it's not a knock. I'm talking specifically about technology and social media. I'm not negating the cultural advancements that we've experienced in this moment, but I'm thinking about what's happening to generations. So now you got young people arguing about, was Harriet Tubman real? See, we could chuckle at that because it sounds crazy, but for them, they having real legitimate arguments about things that we'd have been like, huh? That's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about, as a pastor, I'm going to be leading or hoping to lead a generation that has experienced deep psychic trauma or stunted emotional development because of a lack of sleep. Sleep contributes to the development of young people's brains. But when you under the covers all night and getting 4 hours of sleep because you here and hiding under the covers so they don't know you got the phone on or the tablet on, that's going to damage us. And in that damage, who suffers more culturally? We do. So that's my biggest issue on some levels with it. I don't negate the advancement. There's some things I'm great. I mean, listen. Let's talk about this. If you're of a certain age, and that's to the young folk who here, and it's still the case sometimes, but you got options now for what I'm about to say. There was a time, Brother Dorian, and not so long ago, because I experienced this when if I was downtown trying to get a cab uptown, what? So thank God for Uber and Lyft. Thank God for Uber and Lyft. So there's some things I'm grateful for, right? That I'm not negating how it has cut away certain things that were barriers, certain things, right? I'm grateful for Airbnb because, if we got a bunch of us going on vacation, it's going to be way cheaper getting a house than going to the hotel. I'm grateful for all those things. But I'm thinking primarily of what these phones and social media is doing to our young people. You got young girls going into deep depression because they think they're not attractive because they are not the norm. It was always, but not with the weight. Now, you always had that. Watch this. 40 years ago, you would have been in school and well, then the pretty girls, and these, well, I ain't one of them, or these the guys, so I ain't one of them. But now you're getting it 24 hours a day, bombarded by images that are telling you you are not attractive. And then and that's why the uptick in suicide. Or then you also now, because of this, experience bullying in ways we never experienced it. I can go on and on with this because I was on the task force, the congressional task force for suicide among black teenagers. When you sit there and listen to a mother who tells the gut-wrenching story of her 6-year-old boy who was teased in school repeatedly, kindergarten, and then one day came home. When she came home, she found her 6-year-old son swinging from the closet pole because he took a belt and hung himself. When I was 6, I didn't even know what suicide was. But see, with this right here, you see what they'll tell you how to do it. Nah, man, We always had it, but not like this. Not like this. Or another young girl here, many years ago, being teased and bullied at school, goes to the top of her building in the projects and jumps. We ain't hear about no teen and youth suicide like that 40, 45 years ago. But when you see the uptick and the greatest group of suicide among young people is black boys, 5 to 13. That was unheard of 40, 50 years ago. It ripped my heart to pieces. And when you hear the parents talk about what this did, yeah, I'm going to celebrate a lot. But boy, on the flip side, we don't even fully know the full ramifications. We starting to see it emerging now because you didn't get until this generation, Gen Z, really completely digital generations, and the impact it's having on them psychologically and the mental health issues it is causing. Nah, I can't glorify it all because I see what it's doing to so many of our young people, right? And then because of this, you got people thinking, let's go back to the text, that if you can't monetize it and if you can't get famous from it, it ain't a gift. It ain't a gift. And that's not the case. But we all do it. Because watch this, it ain't just kids on social media. There's a whole lot of us. So you got all these things happening right now that to me are anti-human. They're anti-human and minimizing the impact of our humanity, making us feel less than, right? So, I always hear I had a person tell me, Pastor Mike, you should do so-and-so. You should be a life coach. And yeah, I might do some of that because, first thing said, because, a friend of mine don't have half the skills you got, and they make $200,000 a year doing that. You could be doing that on the side. And I was like, yeah, but my motivation ain't about how much money I'm going to make. I'm past that. I think everybody wants a little extra bread. But when that becomes the primary goal, which it is for so many right now, something is lost, right? We see and the pandemic just exacerbated some of it. It's like that book when that came out, that said the future is analog. It said that one of the ways we recapture our humanity is reclaim the analog age. right? And that when the pandemic came, we got the world we saw in the Jetsons, right? I mean, we was a kid watching the Jetsons, and the Jetsons is now, except for the flying little saucers and stuff. But communicating by video and all those things, you know, you could never imagine. I'm still blown away by it. You know, it's great. I love it. I could be traveling now, and I could video my son to see my granddaughter. I could have done that years ago. Like, who's really far away when you got this, right? And so in that regard, it's like, wow, this is unthought of 30 years ago. You're like, this is deep. How you can maintain connection. But then we got it. But then here it is, when we realized that became the only social experience we had because we were quarantined, all of a sudden you realize, you know what? I like being outside. You thought that you would love working from home all the time until you had to work from home all the time. And then you was like, I'm tired of being inside all the time. We thought we wanted all that. And because you could do but so many virtual brunches, right? And y'all sitting there, y'all can, girl, what you got to drink? What you drink? Y'all sitting there on the y'all. That's cute for a minute, but then you want to be able to sit at a table with somebody and have a conversation. And experience. It was like TNT. TNT virtually 7 to 7:50. I didn't want to do it longer than that because there's something about this. There's something about the energy. There's something about moving around. There's something about seeing your face when you ask a question. There's something about the reaction. All that makes for the experience. It's an amazing experience. And we might have a generation that, well, not might, we do. We have generations that are socially awkward. You go to a restaurant, you see everybody at the table, eating, not talking, not realizing that it was the eating and talking that made the experience. Anybody could eat and watch TV on their own, but it was sitting there eating and having a conversation. These things become lost arts of a certain generation, which will have, even though we say the advancement of technology is going to have a deep social impact, and it's going to have an economic impact on countless, for many, especially when you have like virtual reality. There are people right now whose whole existence is in virtual reality. Everything they do is virtual. I'm telling you, for a fact, right? So people are going to suffer in the future. Because what happens is you start getting an appetite for the artificial experience and not the real one. But there's something about it. I can go on virtual reality and take a trip to Cabo and be having all the experiences, but it will never replace going to Cabo. But for some people, the virtual existence is all they know. It's going to have an impact on the airline industry because when that generation come around, they're going to stop traveling as much. I'm telling you. Seen it. You go to certain resorts and you can see a certain hotels. You see the age demographic of the people who are there is of a certain way, and some of the young folk are not there because those experiences are not as meaningful as they were for some of us. So industries is going to suffer in the next 15 years because people won't necessarily crave it until crisis comes. And then all of a sudden, like, oh gosh. Right? But your gifts make room for you, yes, but they make room for you because your gifts made room for somebody else. Right? That's the real joy of it. If you're a teacher, your joy, and that's your gift, your joy don't come because you sit there and teach yourself. Your joy comes because you're teaching students. And your gift is expanding the lives of those who are in front of you. I can sit here and I can record. Listen, we could do virtual church, online church forever. I'll sit here and record sermon. Y'all just watch it. But let me tell you what you realize during the pandemic. It's something about sitting in this pew and being in the building that cannot be replicated virtually. You can't do that. Virtually, I can't see Mary running. I mean, there's certain things you can't replicate. That the experience. Movies, you can have artificial intelligence in movies, but you said something earlier, but something about being in the theater and watching a play, it's a different kind of experience that you can't replicate by watching it on TV. That's why now you have some people trying to do plays live on TV and stuff to get more people watching. No, there's something about the theater that was authentic. Even though they're playing roles, it was real. Mistakes were made and you kept it moving. Something about seeing a band perform or artists perform. When I teach our ministers, I got some ministers in here. When I teach the ministers about preaching sermons, and we talk about, if you make a mistake, I say, who knows if you made a mistake but you? Keep it moving. Don't nobody know but you. Until you stop. Oh, God, bear with me, church. Tell nobody know you made a mistake. You drawing attention to it. Something about that live engagement that we miss. So I think that, again, we're in the moment when we don't want our gifts to make room. We want our gifts to make money. Right? And we miss something. Because when making money is your primary motivation, that gift begins to diminish a little bit. That gift begins to diminish a little bit. Because I come from an era where they tell you, I want to make a difference. Not always just make money. Mary, you get the last question or statement tonight.
So I was, when we was talking about, when you mentioned about children on reading, that I was also watching today that AI now, if you want to publish a book, what you do is give them your name and they ask you a few questions.
Prompts, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Create a whole
Yeah.
story about you.
Yeah.
And you can use it as gifts and things like that. As far as the pouch with the principal, God bless you. God bless you, I love you. But my granddaughter's school, every kid put their phones in the pouch. And I thought that was a good idea because it's less incidents that go on in the school because when there's a fight break out, everybody's like this. Well, no one in the school.
Or everybody texting about it to somebody.
No one has the ability. Everything is in the pouch. As soon as you walk in, and the magnet shuts it. So there was other things I wanted to say, but
Yeah.
for another.
Okay.
night,
No, yeah, it's just a different moment, man. And again, anything can become detrimental. Anything you love can become a liability. We all love to eat, but if you love to eat too much, it could be a liability. I used to love steak. Boy, good steak. Boy. And then when you realize you got high blood pressure, you can't eat steak like that. Because now, whereas it was enjoyment, it could become a silent killer. So you start shifting your perspective on things. And I think even with all the good from technology, because I'm not going to be the one to tell you technology not good. There are little things, again, those of us who are over about 45 can really revel in some of the advancement. You know what I'm saying? I mean, little things. There's a time, Fred, you can open the door of the car without using your key. That little boop, boop, that was major back in the days. That was a big deal back in the days when you could automatically lock the door. You was like, what? Yeah. All that back in the days, I think it was a great advancement. You get in the car, you was like, roll the window down. Well, you had a car with electric windows. You was somebody. You know? Or then when you had the car that when you got close to it or put your finger on that, pop, you was like, oh, this is great. So technological advancement is a wonderful thing. You know, in many ways, it's always, but you always got to weigh the good with the bad. Those regard, you know, there was a time when, think about it, we grew up in an age where there's phone booths everywhere. You know what I'm saying? A phone booth. You know, you always made sure you had a dime in your pocket, just in case. Then it went from a dime to 25 cents. We was mad about that. Oh, it's ridiculous, a quarter to make a call. He'd be like, this is stupid. You know what I'm saying? So the advancement's there, and I wonder now, even now, I'm like, man, there are days I got this, I'm like, I wish we was back to the rotary phone. I'm like, I want everybody got access to me. Now you got to make up a whole different lie. This make you make up different lies now. You got to make, I'm going to keep it one. You got to make up different lies. You had simple lies back in the days. Oh, my phone must have been off the hook. It was just busy. I don't know what happened. Now you got to come, you can't say that no more. You know what I'm saying? When call waiting came, that was a miracle. But wait on, wait, click. You there? You still there? Or even the good things, three-way calling. It was good until you was a guy who got played by the two girls who was on the other line who was trying to play you. Personal experience. You was like, wait a minute. It was setting me up, right? Yeah, star 69. Somebody hung up. I'm going to get to this. It was 516. Blah, blah, blah. You was like, all those things. This right here? Huh? Oh, star 69 does still work. Yes, absolutely. I've used it. But this right here, be like, you got to come with different lines now. I don't know what was on with Verizon. They must have been down or something. I don't know. You call. Watch this. Let me see. Watch this one. Watch this one. I don't have a missed call from you. I ain't see your call didn't come through. I don't know what happened. You just called me? I ain't get a call from you. I tried to leave a voice message, but your voice box is full. Well, okay. Clear your voice. I hate that. You need to clear your voicemail. Don't tell me what to do with my phone. I do not want to clear my voicemail. Maybe I don't want no more messages. You need to clear. I can't stand when somebody saying, you need to clear your voice. No, I don't. Clear yours. You know what I'm saying? Huh? See, I mean, come on. You know? God forbid. All kind of problems from technology. Just good and bad, right? You texting. Check your text message before you say press send, because you can't reclaim it. God help you if you send the wrong message to the wrong person at the wrong time. You're like, oh, that wasn't meant for you. Oh, we go on and on with good and bad. I learned that. You got to keep, before you press send, review. Review it. Look at the name on top. Okay, I'm fine now. You know what I'm saying? Because then, with your glasses on, and be careful swipe, because you'll swipe and pick up the wrong word. Don't swipe and just press send after you swipe. Because then swiping could be history of your previous words. I'm just telling you, that's what it is. Different world. And if you don't realize that the reason you get certain things on your feed is because the algorithm is tracing what you've been doing, and you're going to tell, everybody ain't got the same feed as you, bro. What you looking at? Like, it's all these things now. It's too intrusive. You know what I mean? It's too intrusive. It's a different day. Anyway, y'all, listen, here's what I'll say, the last word. The last word. I think all of us are born one with significance. And being born with significance also gives us means that what we do becomes significant. The tendencies, the things we love, how it manifests. What makes some of us miss the impact of our gift is because we're comparing to other people versus reveling in the beauty of your own uniqueness. We're so busy trying to get attention that we forget to get a life. We seek validation because our insecurities are just running rampant right now. Because we're in an age that has learned how to monetize our insecurities for the gain of other people. There are industries that make billions because you feel inadequate about yourself. It's the age we're in now. You got to fight hard to be faithful to your uniqueness. Because it's a lost art right now. And so we have to think about that. Whatever God has given you and gifted you with, yeah, you're going to be all right. And yeah, things are going to be well. But don't leave this place not having impacted another human being. Because there's nothing, right? Don't get to a point at the end of your journey and we sitting here all morning and weeping, Mary, because you gone. Don't
talk about me. That's all I'm
No, I'm gonna talk about you, but don't put people based on the way you lived and showed up. Don't put people in a position where they gotta lie about you. So, and the truth is, live a kind of life that when they do talk about you, you can have these experiences where you cry a little, you laugh a little, but you enjoyed the person, and so their life showed that. So anyway, all right, y'all, it's 9:09. I tip y'all longer because I'm gonna miss y'all, and so I'll be back in over yonder. And don't forget, TNT goes through the end of June, then we're on break July, August. But when we come back, I'll be back. And looking forward to that. So enjoy your summer.
So let me understand something.
Mm-hmm. End of June, yeah. Yeah, I won't be here. I won't. No, I'm not going to be here. Well, you know what? You deserve it. Come on, let's stand. You know what's deep though? I was sharing with somebody today. The last time I had any prolonged time off from this church was 2022. Yeah, I'm past deserving it. Yeah. So anyway, all right. Huh? What street is it on? Huh? It's on East Nowhere. Well, no, you can't do that because the bookstore gone. I will tell you this. I'll tell you this. It's somewhere where you can get food. All right, y'all, let's go. God, we thank you and we honor you on tonight, oh God. We're so grateful that you've given us one of the greatest gifts that any human being can have, and that's the gift of laughter, oh God. Thank you, God, because laughter is medicine. It is healing. And the more we do that, the better we feel, oh God. Thank you for the gift of expansion and learning, oh God, because the truth is we can grow and laugh at the same time. And so, God, we thank you for that. Continue to be with us over these weeks and months to come. Continue, oh God, to put within us a desire to learn and grow. To learn and grow. And most of all, oh God, remind us that we are gifted to be gifts. We are gifted to be gifts. We are blessed to be blessings. Thank you for that reminder tonight, oh God. We love you, Lord, and we honor you, God. And it's in your name we pray. Amen. All right, y'all have an amazing remainder of this beautiful night. And enjoy yourselves. And take this, E. And y'all pray that that we have an amazing journey this summer. Don't cry, Mary. I know you're going to cry.